Hey, welcome back. 10-minute Tanya. It's been a long time. Roll the theme song. All right, no theme song. Maybe? I don't know. Depends how busy our editor is. But let's just get going. I want to do this a little bit differently than I did before. I want you guys to understand, instead of just conceptually, I want to go through the text a little bit so that you guys can hear the words of the Baal Tanya himself, and kind of go through it so that I don't miss anything and so that you are well informed. So we talked about the godly soul and the animal soul. We talked about the klippas, how they're formed, how a Jew is made up. Now, I want to talk about today, because ultimately this has to have practical action. We have to be able to use everything that we learned in order to become better human beings. And the way to do that is to understand ourselves and understand our Maker and understand how He pre-programmed us so that we can best use our abilities to succeed. Okay, we are going to talk about where the souls, the godly soul and the animal soul, reside within each person and understand the battle that they go through, and it'll give us background so that we can conquer. Okay. The animal soul, the nefesh habahami. The Alter Rebbe says, Mishkan nefesh habahami shemeklipat noga b'chol ish Yisrael hu balev. Everything is in the heart. So we know that the heart is where all of your fervor comes from, your desires, your interests, your passion, your anger, everything, wants and needs all feel like they come from your heart, which is why the heart is always used to describe anything emotional. Okay. That is where your nefesh habahamit resides. Your nefesh habahamit, your animal soul, resides in your heart. Now, your heart has different ventricles. Any cardiologists, if you're listening, your heart has different ventricles, and they're filled with blood. The left ventricle specifically is filled with blood, and that is where your nefesh habahamit resides, as it says, b'chalal asmali, the left ventricle, shehu malei dam, which is filled with blood, because it says that the soul, the nefesh, is in the blood. Which nefesh is in the blood? The nefesh habahami, the animal soul. And therefore, lachen kol hata'avot v'atifarut v'chas v'domen hem balev. All of the passions and angers and lusts and desires are in the heart, and they all come from the animal soul. So whenever you feel passionate about something in any direction, it's your animal soul yelling and kicking and screaming, and therefore your body can feel aches and pains from emotional distress very easily. Okay, and from there, all of your wants and needs and desires spread out to your body everywhere, right? And they also work their way up to the brain. So if the animal soul's control command center resides in the left ventricle of your heart, which is what pumps all the blood out from your heart into all the organs of your body, then that is sort of the control center where all desires stem from. And even those desires get shot up, the brain flows from, the blood flows from your heart all the way up to your brain. Meaning, practically speaking, if a thought or a desire, a want, stems from your heart, it gets shot up to your brain for your brain to evaluate whether it's going to act on what it feels. Okay? This is Psychology 101. And you are going to learn how your mind can control your heart and vice versa. Okay, so your mind gets an idea that's brought up from the heart, and the heart says, this is what I want. Now your mind has to evaluate based on the amount of intellectual knowledge it has and background. This is why kids want things that are less meaningful than adults, because adults have more of a greater understanding of what is ultimately good for them, not instant gratification, and vice versa. Like a kid who wants candy but doesn't realize how unhealthy it is, versus an adult who just wants healthier food and doesn't have that same desire, because its mind, the adult's mind and brain, comprehends something that can reject the heart. So when the heart has desires for donuts, a healthy brain says, that's cool, but just one, right? Or maybe not today, maybe tomorrow, right? So that's how that process works. Your heart pushes its desires up to your brain with any desires, okay? Kmo she'adam mekoro balev, just like blood has its source in the heart. ומהלב מתפשט לכל האיברים וכל עולה למוח שבראש, everything comes up to the brain. So too, on the flip side, where does the godly soul reside? If the heart takes up, if the left ventricle of the heart is the control center, command center of the heart, and the desires and the nefesh habahamit, then where does the nefesh elokit live? Where does the godly soul reside? The answer is that hu b'mochin shebarosh. It is in the brain. That's the main dwelling place of your godly soul. See what time I'm at? Okay, still got time. Now, that abode of the godly soul is in the head, and from there it goes to all of the limbs, and it decides what happens, what action is taken based on the brain decides and sends, electrical signals to the body to act and speak and do whatever it wants to do. Okay. So the divine soul is, by nature of the fact that it resides in your brain, the divine soul is naturally intellectual. It's the intellectual soul. Whereas the animal soul is more animalistic because it doesn't necessarily think about what it wants. It just wants. It just feels. Whereas the brain can sort of go through the motions and decide what it should feel, so to speak, okay? But there's also another place where the godly soul resides, and that is in the right ventricle of your heart where there is no blood, okay? So we need Chaim Ambender, Dr. Ambender, please come and clarify this for us. But there's no blood in the right ventricle of the heart, but there is blood in the left. And so they say there's a pasuk that says that the heart of a wise man, lev chacham leyamino, the heart of the wise man resides or dwells in the right ventricle, his right. Therefore, the part without the blood, because that literally means that the intellectual who utilizes his godly soul and his intellect to define what he actually wants, regardless of what he feels, can change his feelings so that his heart dwells on the right side, meaning not the area with the blood, not to lean towards what the animal soul wants, but that one can love via intellect. I know that's a difficult concept, but we're going to expand on that a whole lot. Okay. So when those people dwell on, the wise man dwells on what is good for him, he changes his desires, which we spoke about, in past videos, if you watched, and we're going to talk about a lot more. Okay. V'chen, similarly, simchat levav b'tiferet Hashem ve'adar gono, when someone feels glad about something, about understanding godliness and how great God is, right? Kasher einei hachacham asher berosho, because it says that the eyes of a wise man are in his brain. B'moach chochmato v'vinato. So we're not talking about a physical eyes. Yes, the eyes are here, but we're saying that a wise man can see with his brain, because if you had your eyes closed, you couldn't see anything, right? But your brain can still envision things. And so if you understand, right, when you look at God, mistaklim beikara demalka, you're looking at the essence of God. V'tiferet gdoton, you're searching, you're looking at his beauty. Ad en cheker, how he can't be fathomed, he's unfathomable. Ve'en sof etachlit, he has no start, he has no end, he's infinite, like we've said before in lots of different places of the Torah. Your mind can come to an understanding where you understand how great God is, so much so that even though you can't see him, you see him, right? If I know something as a matter of fact, it doesn't matter if I can see it in my eyes or not. And anyone here who's watching knows that they have enough emunah, they have enough faith in God to know that God is real, even though we can't see. So in that same manner, in light of that, we're going to say that, if you can get your brain and use the abode of your godly soul to see by just understanding, it changes how you act and what your heart even wants. Now, all of this is to come to say, le'um mil'om yamatz, that the way the body is created as a Jew is that one nation prevails over the other, meaning the animal soul always prevails over the godly soul, and there's always this battle. We're going to talk more about that in the next video, but I'm really happy we're back. If you're still watching, please like, subscribe, share it, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good Shabbos.